record of it. And Elizabeth, of course, I'd be very happy to share that with you later on.
Oh, thank you.
So before, and I'm going to mute everybody for now. So before we get started, I didn't get a lot of questions, but during the course of this semester, I had several people who said that they would love to join Music Together for the spring. And the first thing that they said is that they're very concerned about the screen time, because in the early years, we know that being too much on the screen is not so good for the kids. And they were concerned about the classes. And basically, I said that Music Together is not necessarily meant to be that everybody's just always looking at me into the screen, but it stays a mommy and me situation, which means that I'm there, but the parent or the nanny or the grandparent, we had all kinds of situations this semester, is with the child and they're doing the activities together, so that I'm just sitting there and as I do in class as an advisor. I'm not sure if you wanted to say anything about this situation, because a lot of times people think that the kids are left in front of the screen all by themselves, you know. Wait, you're not, wait, Elizabeth, you're not unmuted.
Okay, am I unmuted now?
Yes, okay.
Okay, good, yeah. First of all, let me say, I completely understand the concern about screen time, because my son is now 21, but I was concerned about it when he was little, and I went by the PBS guidelines, you know, and when nobody else was worried about screen time. So I get the concern. I think what you said is really important, because you're really facilitating the relationship between the parent and the child, which is really different from them just being in front of the screen and just zoning out, and kind of losing themselves in a program. To me, that's very different. So I really personally don't feel like it falls in exactly the same category. I think it's different. So
I also wanted to say that I watched a little bit of I always watch PBS and some other stations, and there was once a specialist who said that in this situation that we're in right now, it's unavoidable to have more screen time altogether, because we're bound to the screen, and the screen is basically, at least for a little longer, our only way to connect to the outside world.
Yeah, and I think, you know, I mean, one of the things about being a psychotherapist, and I've been practicing for almost 30 years now, is that I became a therapist to help people in the way that I felt I had been helped by therapy. And then it's something I've utilized a lot in my life, going in and out of it. And generally, when I'm working with people, I've experienced things really similar to what they're experiencing and have worked through them. So with COVID, we are really in this together. I have allergies, and that's what you hear in my voice. So what you said, Gabriella, is really true. I mean, we have to adapt given COVID. And, you know, one of the things that I used to think about and still think about, you know, as a parent, is what's the what may be the lesser of two evils, so to speak. So, you know, if they're going to be bouncing off the walls because they're not, you know, occupied enough, to me, to, you know, have them more engaged, you know, with interactive screen activities like you're talking about. You know, for me, taking a yoga class online is really different from taking a professional webinar online where I'm listening to somebody present. And I also think too, as far as managing sibling stuff, which is amped up, I'm hearing from my clients, you know, who have younger children, that the sibling stuff is harder to manage. And so if you're talking about, you know, making some good screen choices versus having, you know, you're having to police your children a lot, and them, you know, getting into it with each other in terms of conflict, I think, you know, again, I would choose some kind of a screen activity like what you're offering. I'm not just saying that because I'm your friend. I really believe that. So that's what I would say about it.
Oh, I want to make sure that everybody knows that they can jump into the conversation whenever they're ready. You know, I cannot unmute you anymore because the Zoom laws have changed. So if you want to say something, you know, you can feel free to just contribute. Or if you have actually specific questions that you want to ask Elizabeth while we have her here, feel free to jump in and say. Nicole, I can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Sorry. Mine was a bit not about screen time, but if anyone else has screen time questions, I could wait. Or we're good, I guess. Oh, you have one? Okay.
Shura, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Did I unmute?
Yeah, you did. Yes. Yes.
Oh, sorry. And also my internet is rubbish. So I missed the very top, and I apologize for being late. So I think someone asked the obvious question about screen time and how much, but I am the only adult in the house, and I'm working pretty full on, and he's nearly 3, and my only babysitter is the screen. Okay. Is the screen, and I'm trying to mitigate my guilt with common sense that that's just what it has to be, because I literally don't really have another option. So I want you to tell me I can assuage my guilt, please.
Absolutely.
Anyone actually can tell me.
I mean, something I said earlier is the choice points we're having to make, you know, are different, and sometimes it can feel like the lesser of two evils, so to speak. And I would give you permission to do that. It's really hard with people working, you know, from home, working remotely, and having small children at home. And, you know, I have always felt that something needs to work for both the parent and the child. Some people sacrifice themselves, you know, for their children, so to speak. I don't think that's really healthy. You know, you're at home, you have to work, you need to concentrate, and I think you're making the right choice personally, for what it's worth.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I would make the same choice. My son, I don't have young children anymore, but you know, I work with clients who have young children, so I'm hearing from them, you know, what's going on with them, and we're figuring out together, you know, some choices that can best serve the family, so to speak, because that's what it comes down to.
I will say that I have noticed that he he does zone out. But more than that, he actually does tell stories, and he repeats conversations back, and he follows characters. And you know, I'm a story, and my job is part of this storytelling, so that makes me very happy. Okay, this is him now.
Oh yeah.
Say hello. Oh, so so you know, it's something is happening to him, engaging in character and story somewhere along the line.
Right, which is really important, you know, and I think it's important to look for, you know, what is working and what is positive in the situation, and to really get that this is not all bad, because I don't think it is. I mean, I had the privilege of hearing really famous, well, I've heard a lot of famous psychologists speak, and this guy's up in Boston, and he was famous for doing research on like a relationship between a mother and a child, and noticing the interaction and what was happening with that. It's called the Strange Experiment. It's really famous in terms of developmental psychology, and he presented a couple of years ago, and he had such a delightful approach. I mean, he basically poo-pooed everything that we're all like trying so hard to like do correctly psychologically. And he talked about how he has done research throughout the world, that he's researched the mother-child dyad in places like Africa, as well as is a lab, you know, in Boston. And you know, people were asking then about the screen time thing, and he said, what I can tell you is that we as human beings have an incredible ability to adapt. And he talked about watching, observing like mothers who carried the babies, you know, like where the baby was facing them, you know, like like we see pictures of women doing a lot, say in Africa or something like that. And then ones that really, it was much different from that. And he said, honestly, we have the ability to adapt to get what we need. And I so appreciated his perspective. I mean, of course, the people in the audience who are really anxious about the screen time thing didn't like him, because he really laughed at a lot of the things that we've taken research about and have gone to town with it. And he was trying to get us to hold those things lightly, more lightly than we were as clinicians. So I hope that somehow or another conveyed something to you that was important to me. Yeah.
I also wanted to say that prior to everything starting with the spring semester all online, I gave it a lot of thought, and I had actually one parent who had a conversation with me that she felt that she said that as soon as she's turning on the Zoom, and that happens, I had 3 families like that their children said no, and they didn't want to do it at all, and they felt like, because now the nannies were not available because of the isolation, that they felt like the kids would not want to cooperate with them, and they were really frustrated because it was hard for them, and some of them were very concerned about they love the class, but then they felt like the kids don't get anything out of it because they didn't want to be in front of the screen at all.
And what did you say to that?
What I said to them,
yeah.
well, I said that sometimes there is a power struggle between the parent and the child,
right,
more than let's say, a child and a nanny, because there is a different relationship between a parent and a child. And because of that, they often not like to do what you want to do. So the one mom, I advised her to just say, you mommy is going to watch the class, and if you like to give him some toys and things, you can play. And if you want to and you're ready, you can always come back to the class, but you don't have to. And then I gave the child a choice, instead of that the child feels like they have to do this.
Yeah.
And then there was another parent whose child also is very shy. Actually, she is a butterfly, a social butterfly when she's with her peeps, but she is
Right.
not very much social when she's on screen. And she also did not want to be on screen. And I told her specifically to not push her daughter for anything, and just don't ask her to do anything, and just engage yourself in whatever we do. And if her daughter wants to come around, then she will come around. And that was also a family who first said they didn't want to do the class at all, and now they're coming to my classes. They are with Davis on Saturday, and they visit a lot of classes now. All of a sudden, this whole
Yeah.
thing totally relaxed, you know.
Yeah. I think you gave great advice. You know, I think it was right on the money. And it always helps to give them a choice. You know, I think honestly, one of the most important things is that we, the parent, feel we're not conflicted within ourselves, you know, and we feel like this is a good thing. And, you know, you've also shared with me, Gabriella, about a child seeing you on the screen and like kissing the screen. So there's that connection, you know, and we're all, a really close friend and colleague of mine said, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge that the lack of in-person is, it's a loss for us. And that thankfully we have ways to compensate, so to speak, such as through Zoom. It's not the same as in person, and yet we're showing up and we're wanting to connect, and we can therefore like bridge the gap with that. And I found that really helpful. I mean, a lot of us have been doing this now. I mean, I started doing telehealth. My last in-person session for therapy was March 13th. So I've been doing telehealth ever since. And I have to say, I had already done for years a lot of phone sessions and that kind of thing and had liked them. But at this point, it's wearing on all of us somewhat, you know. So I just think it's this commitment, you know, if you, the parent, feel like it's good and that, yeah, it's not as great, and don't force them. And I agree. I think it's like, okay, I'm showing up, I'm doing this as the parent, and then letting them, not trying to control them, and giving them permission to just kind of like be in the room and overhear things and whatever, and then join in as they want to. I think that's really good. And I think what you said about giving a choice, because then otherwise it can get into a power struggle for sure. So anyways, is this helpful? Can you all let me know if what I'm saying is landing inside in a helpful way or not? Or
Well, like, so would you recommend, like, I know sometimes with Petra, like she's really excited about class, and then today we did swim, so I'm not sure if she was a little more tired, you know, but she, you know, I was like, okay, Petra, come on, let's run, let's do this stuff with the class. And I kind of had to push her a little bit, and she was getting annoyed at me. And I don't know, should I have just let her like when it came to the drumming, Petra was kind of not into it. And should I have not encouraged, like, should I just let her do what she wanted in those situations?
Well, something you can do that is just, it's so important no matter what the situation, honestly, you know, and I still have to remind myself to do this even as an older parent, is it's important to really first acknowledge where the child is.
Okay.
You know, so you can say something like, you know, I can see you might be a little, we did the swim thing, you might be a little tired, and that's okay. It's okay if you're a little tired.
I don't think it was even tiredness. I think it was just, I'm not sure. And I just, you know, I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing by encouraging to go along or just kind of being like, okay, you don't have to. She wanted to be there.
She wanted to be there. So look, you know, the thing would be to make it okay for her to be wherever she is inside of herself while she's there.
Okay.
You know, that's the thing. And then she can be there, but she can be there in a way that feels comfortable to her at the time.
Oh.
And then she gets both things that she's wanting, you know, with that. Like, she can be there and she doesn't have to be 100%, you know, fully.
When I do the classes, I put everybody in, I mean, I put myself generally into the spotlight, but I actually always use the gallery view myself, so I see everybody. And sometimes the kids just sit there and watch, and sometimes the kids don't do at all what I'm doing. But I still have to say that this semester has also opened my eyes, because I'm somebody who says, oh, screen time, no. But I have had families, actually, it's funny that those families who were on the fence turned out to be the ones who tuned in every single day for the classes, and no matter if it was me or somebody else. And I'm hearing that kids are actually doing so much at home now, that surprised me, because they're only seeing me on the screen, and I always find in real life it's different. But like Kate, who is here in the meeting, she said that her son never sang a song with the words. So it was either the melody or the lyrics, right, Kate? And he sang the Wiggle song all by himself, completely out of the blue the other day. So the screen time really did make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Kate, if you want to say something, you can unmute yourself. You know, I can't unmute you. No, she doesn't want to say it. She's.
I mean, I think you said it. Yeah, he did. He just started singing to himself. It was really exciting.
That's wonderful, really. I mean, something else I wanted to mention that I'm noticing, because I do notice things that are coming up with my clients, you know, that are similar. The people that are doing the best with COVID are the ones that have structure. The people who don't, and this is very much true for kids, the ones who don't have much structure are having a harder time. So I'm assuming, Gabriella, that your classes are like regularly scheduled, right? So it's the same class at the same time kind of thing. They're not, is that right?
More or less, you know. I mean, let's say if you were to sign up on a Monday, then the Monday class is always at the same time. But sometimes we vary a little bit because people's nap time change. And the good thing about, naps are not always the same for everybody. So like on Wednesday, I have a 9:30 and a 12:30 class, because I know that the ones with the babies need the later mornings. But I'm finding that because I record the classes, that, you know, I look on YouTube how many views I And I actually did notice that people do take advantage. Some of them have zero views, but there are some classes that have a lot of views because they can basically watch the class at any time they want. And what I also wanted to say is that you can just take a part of the class so that if you're worried about screen time, if you watch it again, you don't have to watch the whole class. You can just watch bits and pieces. And this way you don't have to worry that the kids are hanging too long in front of the screen.
But I think for people to have some continuity is important. So for them to have the continuity of something with you that's more or less at a similar time, I think that's very important psychologically. You know, I personally with my therapy clients have kept the same day and time that I had with them when I was seeing them in the early part of March. And it's been this thing that's been a through line that has included the relationship, you know, through COVID. And to be honest with you, it's helped me deal with COVID as well, that there's that consistency with the, you know, with doing something with the same people. And then, you know, showing up and being with what's coming up in relation to people's lives. And with COVID, you know, and with people being at home, for those of us who have been pretty much sheltering in, which I have chosen to do, even though I don't live in New York City anymore, but I'm in the older category, and you can hear I have bad allergies, which every season with my clients, it's been, I just have allergies. It's not, but now with COVID, people worry, you know, about this kind of thing. So, you know, I think the relationship that people have with you, Gabriella, is like really important, and for there to be continuity, you know, a touchstone that way in terms of the relationship is huge. And then of course the music and them being engaged that way, and all the research we have now about the importance of music and how that, you know, affects the brain is like, it's to me, it's a really great thing, you know, to be doing with children and for children, and it includes the personal relationship.
Yeah,
It really does.
I mean, I can only talk for myself. I mean, I always find
Yeah.
the relationships to my families have always been very important to me. I mean, a lot of people are personal friends at this point for me, you know, and always feel very close. And I can say that, I mean, once this whole thing happened, and I felt like, I don't know who's going to sign up for this. All the business is going like belly up. I'm thinking, I don't know if I'm going to make it this time. And, you know, I'm sure everybody, a lot of you feel like that too. And I felt like, I don't know if I can get even through the summer, you know, because it's already usually pretty low in summer. But I know I have one family that works for the Metropolitan Opera. She's a singer there, and her husband is also a singer, classically trained, and basically both of their businesses went completely belly up, and they still took the class, which I offered them scholarship, and they still actually paid for it. I was surprised. But I think that, you know, it keeps the community together, you know, at least for me. I mean, I had hard time sleeping, like so many people say. I couldn't sleep through the night. Then I had grinded my teeth so badly that my whole jaw was out. Then I had to call my voice teacher, do Feldenkrais exercises with her and voice exercises to get this whole thing back in line there. But the stress,
Yeah.
the stress that we are going through as adults, and trying to pretend for the kids that nothing is going on when everything is going on and the whole world is upside down. I think that's really, really difficult. At least for me, I don't know about you guys, but it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really stressful.
Shura,
Um,
yourself?
and I think it's really hard because younger children,
Elizabeth,
this is what I'm, yeah.
Shura is trying to say something, but she has to.
Oh, sorry. I am really sorry. I couldn't hear you. Go
Shura,
ahead.
you have to unmute. I can't do it for you. I'm sorry. That feature is gone. You're still on.
Okay, sorry. So, do you have any tips then? Sorry, it's all a bit confused. So, I have no structure in my work schedule.
Mhm.
So, my work
Right.
schedule is what it is, and it means that he can't have a structure, which means I can't do classes like Gabrielle because I don't know if I'll be free. Do you have any hints of how we can enact a pretend structure or certain points of structure in the day or any of those sorts of things?
Well, I would ask you what would be possible to structure because, that's a very personal thing. But given who you are in your life, what would be possible to structure?
Well, I try, Ezekiel. All right, go and get it. I'll go and sit down. I'll come through. What can we structure? I don't know. I mean, I try when we go out, which we go out every day, I try and go out at about the same time of the day.
Right. Yeah. That's a good
but that's
thing.
about it.
Eating breakfast, lunch, dinner,
Ezekiel.
and around the same time,
What, the eating?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
something that's important to structure,
Yeah, I mean, there was times where I'd forgotten to feed him because I was busy, and then I suddenly realized the time, and he doesn't nap anymore because I don't have time to put him down, which is why he's having a bit of a meltdown now. Sorry.
Right. No.
This is a perfect example of every work call I have is exactly like this. Oh.
Uh-huh. Huh.
Anyway, sorry. I don't know.
So let me ask you this. I'm wondering if there might be more that you could actually do to provide structure. And this is why I'm asking you this, is because in me, working with adults and working with people who freelance, which I primarily did when I was in the city. I worked with freelancers and artists.
Hang on.
Yeah.
He doesn't nap.
Okay. But I have found that people, especially women, have felt like they had to adapt to a work situation's needs or to an employer's needs. And then when I have really pressed them, that they have then been able to say kind of no to more things and kind of call more of the shots themselves, so that they've been able to better structure things. For example, working with performing artists a lot, as I did in the city, a thing that would come up would be them not being able to keep their regular session day and time. And I personally feel like regular session day and time is part of helping people develop internal structure. And they would be, well, I got an audition. And then it would be like, well, did you ask your agent if you could come at another time? It like that. And really, and at first they were like, no, I have to, this is, I can't, I don't, but then pressing them, they realized that they could speak up more, that they, weren't having to completely adapt. So I'm just wondering if for you, it might be uncomfortable at first, but there might be a greater ability to set more of a structure than you think you're able to set right now.
I mean, I've thought that it comes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to save our job. So quite frankly,
you're right.
do what you can to save your job. And I think I have less agency than I would normally have. Yeah, I mean, I think about it, and I'm not really a scheduled person for myself. So I think that's probably part of it too.
Yeah, that probably is. But I would encourage you to try to think about it, even if you have like a routine in the morning, just for in terms of just getting up, and then as Gabriella was saying about having breakfast, if you can do that, and that there's a consistency to it, it will help. It'll really help your child a lot. So
yeah, I'm going to be out of the city for August, and I'm hoping I will reenact nap time in that time and reset it so that when I come back to the city, there's a bit more of that. I don't know.
Yeah, because that'll help, and him, if he needs to have a nap and he's not getting a nap, then that's creating more problems actually for you, kind of in terms of managing him, but it's also hard for him in terms of his nervous system. So something that's really important to know about is and understand is the nervous system and things we can do to calm our nervous system, and that kind of thing. So I know everybody's busy. I have a free audio program. It's called Resilient You, and it has its own website. It's resilientyou.com, and I talk about the nervous system. I do like some explanatory things, and then I give actual little exercises for just calming the nervous system. And this is something I introduce to all my therapy clients, and find it invaluable. And I found it invaluable in understanding and relating to my son, because my son has learning differences, and he was definitely like hyperactive and that kind of thing. And so to understand what was going on with him in terms of his nervous system, and then understanding how the interaction between the two of us, how that was impacting my nervous system, it's just taken the shame out of it, so it's not so personalized, and it's really helped me. And I do this with couples too, that I work with, of tracking their nervous system, noticing when they're getting overstimulated, what they need to do to calm themselves down. First we have to calm ourselves down as adults, then we can calm our children down. So especially during this time of COVID, where we're living and working in close quarters, people's nervous systems are really overly stimulated, and it's a lot more challenging. So I find it really helpful, to have that information. And I noticed with my son was away at college, I'm an older mother. I became a mother at age 45. So when he came home, he was doing online training. He had trouble adjusting, but then he did. And then he was really into it as far as that. And once the structure of those classes, which he was very good about, was gone, there started to be more problems. So it's just something that's really helpful, you know, to be aware of. And getting outside is important. I know I do still have really close friends who are in the city, and they are feeling freer in terms of getting out to like Riverside Park and that kind of thing. I mean, they're wearing masks, they're socially distancing and all of that. But just making sure, you know, that they get outside every day. And, you know, if your child can look forward to being able to go out for a little bit, you know, at a certain time every day, then,
Well,
you know,
being
it
outside,
would be helpful. Excuse me?
sorry, being outside is actually very important for the brain, because
Yes,
they say that if you actually take a 1 hour walk outside every day, that it feeds your brain with oxygen, and that helps you think better. So being
absolutely.
outside is really important. And that was another thing that I wanted to address, because when this whole COVID thing started, I was really concerned about the development of the children, being all isolated. Um, Several years ago, I had a child. Her name was Phoebe, and she was 2.5. And she was always in my class. They never missed a single class. And all of a sudden, there was 3 weeks where they missed, and I didn't hear from them. And that was unusual. So I gave the mom a call, and she said, well, now that you're calling me, I wanted to let you know that Phoebe was diagnosed with leukemia, and she cannot come to class anymore. And so what we did was at that time there was no Zoom, so I put her on Skype every week in the class, and we discussed everything. And I also got from Sloan Kettering the special permission to go to their house and do some sessions with them. But she was doing better in the setting on Zoom. And but the nanny gave me always reports, and one of the reports is that now she doesn't like to share things anymore with others, and the movement, there's not enough physical movement when you're always cooped up in an apartment. And there were a lot of things that she felt that were to the disadvantage for being always isolated. Of course, the social development was the biggest one of them all, but I think the physical development, you know, I always try to make sure that at least once in my class I get up with the kids and move. But not everybody has a big room where the kids, so I'm just jumping a lot with them, you know, where we don't need a lot of space, but movement is so important for children.
It's really important. But, and also being outside, you know, just assuming it's not heavily polluted, and supposedly the carbon footprint is down right now, you know, because of all of the sheltering in that's going on. You know, the air is cleaner,
A lot of
and
demonstrations, right?
it's good.
People were all
What
of a sudden mass gathering, you know, from one extreme to the next, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, it's really hard, especially for younger children, because they can't understand about COVID. And you know, we're hardwired to be securely connected to each other. We know that. And so the the natural impulse or instinct is to connect. And so, you know, to then be in a situation where you're pretty much having to keep your child away from, you know, strangers, people who are not in your bubble, so to speak, it's really challenging. So yeah, I feel like that needs to be acknowledged, and I feel like our need for connection needs to be acknowledged, and how we're all suffering from that, really. And I just would like to say too, you know, if you find yourself yelling more at your kids, getting, you know, triggered and going into a fight response and that kind of thing, I just encourage you to bring as much loving kindness to yourself as you can. When you're at that point, you know, if you can remember to do so, something I encourage my clients to do is to just put their hand on their heart and bring loving kindness to themselves, because this is a difficult situation for all of us. And we need to, you're not going to wreck your children forever, you know, if you're losing it, especially if you do, and then you can say to them, you know, I'm really sorry. I'm on edge right now. It's hard for all of us that we have to be inside so much. Just even doing that, it lets them know that it's not their fault. Yes, mommy's, you know, on edge, and mommy just snapped at you, you know, and I'm really sorry that I snapped at you. It's just, it's so important to be able to do that kind of thing. It mitigates how it could be a worst case scenario developmentally for them, you know, than otherwise. And people are finding, I'm also hearing from people who had been really busy outside of the home, you know, prior to COVID, that it's actually bringing about, you know, some stronger bonds that hadn't been there in the same kind of way. So it's important to kind of keep in mind the bigger picture. And something that I'm noticing with myself and with my clients is that everybody's kind of hitting a wall, like within the last week or two, because we had in our mind, okay, we're going to socially, you know, we're going to quarantine pretty much, shelter in pretty much. And we'll do that for a period of time. We're going to flatten the curve, and then, you know, it'll be okay. And, you know, what we're realizing from the research, for those of us who pay attention to, you know, the research people and the health experts, you know, public health people, and aren't really getting caught up in the politics, what the politicians are saying to us, we're realizing that COVID is not going away. And I think it's just really important for us to acknowledge that this is a big thing. I know for myself, I know for my clients, there's been like a real disappointment and kind of a, I don't know if depression is the right word or not. I'm careful about how I use that, but there's a sense of grief about what our life was, and the reality, it seems, that we're not going to be able to return to what it was, that it's going to be a phrase I heard recently from a New York Times person that I highly recommend. She does the health section in the Times, is acknowledging that the pandemic is not going away, and that what we're looking at now is interacting and we're looking at harm reduction in terms of how we interact and all that that means. In fact, there's a really good article that was in the Times. It was on June 9th. And the title is 5 Rules to Live By During a Pandemic. And it's in the health section. And the woman's name is Tara Parker-Pope. And it's really a great article about rubber meets the road and things for us to do and to be mindful of. So again, just really bringing a lot of loving kindness and compassion to ourselves, and then acknowledging with our children, that, yeah, we're more on edge. And, again, people are coming up with lots of creative ideas for how to stay connected with others and to do it in a way where we're staying safe. It's just really, we've never seen anything like this before, where the instinct is to move towards, and then by potentially moving towards, we might be threatening our very lives. And it's quite something. So, and yet we're gonna have to keep adapting and being as gentle as we can with ourselves and with those we're closest to.
I actually started to I'm not doing it every day, but I'm trying to have at least some time before I do my morning starts, 20 minutes of meditation if I can,
Mm-hmm.
And I have to say that when I started, man, my thoughts were just like running. I couldn't even relax, but now it's become a little bit more linear. And Davis, our Saturday teacher, is pretty much always meditating, and he starts off in his Saturday morning class when he says, take a deep breath in and out. That's how he does it. And I actually think it's quite beautiful, because sometimes we forget to breathe. And that is really so important now, because our stress level and not knowing where our life is going, all of us,
Yeah, absolutely. And my audio program, which is free, it's not free on iTunes, and I myself had to pay to download it from iTunes onto my iPhone. However, you can listen to it, free via a computer, and if you like it, you can download it. But it has all these very short physical calming techniques on it that are like a minute long, because especially with young children, and I know for myself, doing like 20 minutes of meditation is something that has felt kind of daunting. So if you can have these things you're doing that are really short, and all they do is they just calm the nervous system. I can show you one right now. Just breathe in through your nose on the count of 4. And out through your mouth on the count of 7. And then do it again, in through your nose on the count of 4. Out through your mouth on the count of 7. And then if you can do it 2 more times, it'll calm your nervous system even more. And then it just helps to reset. It'll reset your nervous system, which is the kind of thing we need, and to do these short little things throughout the day. So
once had a parent who was a therapist, and when her child got overexcited, like let's say when the time comes and I say everybody can try the guitar, and you know how they all get in there, and he was getting overexcited. To help himself regulate, they took a few deep breaths, and
Yeah.
one day he started to say to himself, "Oh, Oliver's taking a deep breath now," and he started to self-regulate. It was quite wonderful to see how
Yeah.
the breathing actually really can help. You know.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. And if you're working to do that throughout your day, it also helps you be able to be more productive. Just these little breaks like that.
Yeah.
So, but for myself, I'm using all the tools I have, all the skills I have. And then I'm also searching for new ones, you know, to help me. And I think that's really the time, these are the times we're living in.
I think,
So,
I mean, I don't know too much. I know that as a woman, I don't
yeah,
want to say any stupid thing, but I often feel that women always feel like they have to be responsible for everything and in charge of everything, and sometimes and multitasking everything, uh, when we are so worked up and emotionally, it's so hard that if you don't start to pamper yourself and to actually take 1 minute even to just take a deep breath in and out for yourself, that a deep burnout is going to happen for sure, you know.
yeah, definitely. And I also really like that image. I mean, none of us are flying right now, but we can remember when we flew. The thing about putting the oxygen mask on your face first, the parent puts it on their face, and then you put the oxygen mask, you know, on your child's face. That's also true in terms of getting through the day and coping. We need to be putting the oxygen mask first on our own face, which is one of the reasons why I really teach this thing of putting your hand to your heart. That's just calming in and of itself. And then just thinking of bringing loving kindness to yourself. Because if our child is upset, I'll speak for myself. My child's upset, that gets me upset. But it's like, calm myself first, and then I'll be able to be responsive rather than reactive to my child. And just this simple gesture like this and bringing awareness to it, it just breaks the loop. We get into these loops like this. It can be in our mind, you know, anxious thinking type stuff, but also just plain feeling anxious. So it just puts a brake on it. And that's what we want to be doing, you know, for short amounts of time throughout the day. And also helping them to do it. My son doesn't like these things. You know, he was living at home when I made the audio program, and he can imitate it exactly. But you know, a lot of kids do. And there are good apps now, like Headspace is a really good app. And I know Headspace is recommended at the Hallowell Center in the city. And for people with ADHD, which is what my son has, plus some other learning difference things. And then also there's a great app called Calm, CALM. And it has a broad range of things, from just simple breathing to longer guided visualization type things. And that's also excellent. And you can use my audio program too. I mean, one of my therapy clients admitted to me at some point she said, Elizabeth, I have to tell you the truth. I said, what? She said, I've never made it all the way through your audio program. I just put it on at night and I listen to it and I can fall asleep. And she suffered from horrible insomnia. I said, I'm so happy to hear that. I don't care that you've listened to the whole thing. You know, it's whatever can help you, you know, to just calm your nervous system. It's really important.
So I think we should have just a few more minutes where we open this up for anyone who has any questions, and then
Yeah.
close our session. If anybody has questions that they would like to address to Elizabeth, while we still have this valuable time together. Anyone? And you can also type it into the chat. I try to keep up with you, Elizabeth. I put resilientyou.com in the chat area, 5 rules to live by during a pandemic, Headspace app and Calm app, which I've seen.
Yeah.
If there's anything else we should share in the chat.
Well, we haven't touched into this yet, but I can just mention it in passing as far as going on with the anti-racism stuff. It's a huge concern for everybody. And somebody I would highly recommend is a guy by the name of Professor it's Ibram. It's spelled Ibram. Kendi, Kendi, and he's written several books. There's a great podcast with Brene Brown called, her podcast series is called Unlocking Us, and it's her June 3rd podcast with him, and they talk about, it's the most non-shaming yet incredibly truthful approach I've come across. And he's coming out this month with a board book for babies. It's called Anti-Racist Baby. And then he's also written another book that's supposed to be really good for teenagers, and it's called Stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. And then the book for us adults is How to Be an Anti-Racist. But he talks about, with Brene in the interview, how to be talking about this at home. And he also talks about himself as a parent, as does Brene. And to me, he's like kind of my favorite one right now on this whole issue that is really, you know, also on our hearts in addition to COVID.
On the Facebook page, the Solati Facebook page, I also shared the little clip of Sesame Street about how to speak to your children about racism. That was very, very nice, I thought. So
yeah.
And Elizabeth, if you wanted to, you could go to my Solati's Music Together Facebook page and put these links and share it with us.
Okay. Is this your page your page I belong to, or is it a group, Gabriella?
I'll send
you can give it to me.
I have a page,
yeah.
Solati's Music Together.
Okay. And then the way I tend to show up on Facebook.
Content on it. So you would
Excuse me, you tried to what?
You have good content on it. Like you.
Yeah. I show up as restoring connection with life and thriving. So, and I've developed an approach called restoring connection with life and thriving. You know, it's all geared towards that connection. What's up big time right now. So,
Yeah, I actually wanted to let everybody know that Susan Darrow, the CEO of Music Together, wrote a big article about um, uh, Black Lives Matter. And I wanted to wait until she published it, and I wrote my own Black Lives Matter thing about it. I started Music Together in Harlem at a time when nobody even would have dared to go up there. But the European in me, I didn't have any thoughts about that. So in the end, I'm really glad because I've fallen into one of the best neighborhoods in the city, and the people that I met over the years and from all over the world, also because of Columbia University, has really made my classes special to me. And I never felt like I'm an outsider because I have that strong German accent either, because everybody had an accent. Yeah. So, yeah, it's on one hand, I think we're moving through a very difficult time, but on the other hand, this time can be the greatest opportunity. It can be an opportunity to change your life as to what you actually really want to do in your life. It can be an opportunity to actually be with your children and have a really great bonding experience. It can be a great opportunity to actually get civil rights um, and the policing the way it is right now changed. And the state of New York has already made a lot of changes. So I think always on the positive side in life, to take lemons and make lemonade out of it. And sometimes a big event can bring a change rapidly forward. Whereas if we just slowly move and nothing ever really changes, then these changes can take forever. Also in ourselves. I mean, if we lose a job, we all know how existential this is, and yet it can be an opportunity to actually sit down and say, this could be a time where I could actually go and make some changes that are long, long overdue, that I didn't dare because of the responsibilities that we carry financially and otherwise. But if you can't help it and it's higher power and you don't have any choices anyways, then you may as well take this opportunity.
yes, once you calm your nervous system, you can do that. When we're in a fight, flight, freeze response, we can't uh, kind of come up with possibilities or be curious or that kind of thing. So the first thing is to acknowledge we're feeling threatened really at a primal level and doing what we can to calm our nervous system. And then from that, you're right, we can come up with, it's also an incredible opportunity right now for making a lot of significant change. So people that are feeling less threatened are feeling more possibility around all of that. People that are really worried about losing their jobs and that kind of thing, it's harder. People that have more of a nest egg cushion, they can be thinking along those lines. So I think we need to attend to the nervous system first and then go from there and acknowledge that it is hard, and also that it's also like the Chinese character, crisis equals opportunity is true. So it's both are true.
All right. I think that this was a good meeting, and I hope that you got something out of it and can send us feedback. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. And let us know if we should do something like that ever again, or if it was helpful. And
Thank you.
if it wasn't helpful, we want to know that too.
Yeah, yes.
No, it's
Yeah.
I love anything like this because I flounder through every single day. So anything is fantastic for me personally. Like every day is just a shocking marathon of,
Hard for all of us. And
Yeah, it is. It is. It's disorienting, and then we're having to reorient. So now we're going through another reorientation, which is learning how to live with the pandemic. So,
Love you.
anyways, is that for Gabriella? I bet.
all right, so it's
Uh,
dinner time. We let all of you go.
thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. Really.
This was so wonderful for giving your time and talent to us.
Yes, thank
My
you both.
pleasure. It's been a while since I've done a workshop, so it was fun.
We
It's
certainly
good.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to